Good afternoon, Eoghan. So lovely to have you with us today.
Always a great pleasure.
So you seem to spend more time in the air than on the ground. How many flights a year do you take?
Really good question, because I've never actually itemised them. I know one of my colleagues, Philip Nolan, sort of keeps a track on how many flights a year he does. We've sometimes had the conversation. I do know that it really racked up at about 30 countries a year in the run-up to COVID, and that would pretty be normal. There were some countries would be 4 or 5 times. There would be weeks in the year I'd be in the air 6 times. There will be weeks in the year I'm home, a fortnight, never much longer than a fortnight. I wouldn't be on a flight at all. And then, of course, there is the complication. If you're coming back from somewhere really far away, sometimes you have more than one flight. I've had occasions when I've had woken up in a foreign country with 5 flights to catch, connecting with each other to get home.
I know, Eoghan, I thought you would be one type of person to have a spreadsheet of all your flights and miles covered now. But the amount of flying that you do, you must know a thing or two about getting great deals on flights.
Really, the deals is it's a very hard game to win. It's like I'm reminded very heavily. I spent a lot of time in national newspapers, and I was sports editor of a national newspaper and deputy editor of another daily paper at different stages. A racing correspondent many years ago in the Irish press was asked, what is the sure thing? You go to all these races. What's the sure thing that's going to win? And his reply was, well, I wouldn't be racing correspondent of the Irish press if I knew the sure horse that was definitely going to win. I'd have long taken that knowledge and opportunity for myself. So it's a bit like playing the bookies. There's a war on, and it never stops between an airline and a travel company trying to get the maximum price, and the punter trying to get the lowest price. There are different things you can do to try and get yourself in the general area where you're paying less than the norm. There's a lot of flights that fly where they make a loss because the airline decides it's worth making a loss, and you can direct people towards those. But the ultimate bargain I'm still searching for, and I look forward to finding it someday.
Me too. So tell us though, is there a best time to book your flight to get a cheaper deal?
Okay. The traditional way that airlines worked this, and particularly the chartered airlines, was that they put the highest price into the market early, and then if the seats weren't selling, they reduced the price. So go back quite a few years, maybe decades, you could end up in a situation where somebody would have a flight with empty seats going out. Empty seats are not like things you can put back in the freezer and sell on Monday. You have to get what money you can for them. So the traditional charter line would be, there will be late. There would always be late bargains. You could end up on Friday evening being phoned by somebody in a holiday company, said, "We have a flight leaving at 8. Have you your passport?" and get on board for very little money. And that model where it starts dear and comes down cheap, that really was what was the norm. When people like Ryanair and DCJet started arriving in the market, they implemented the completely opposite model. The further out, the cheaper the flight, and it gets dearer and dearer until if you actually turn up at the airport and buy a flight, and this happens to people who miss a flight, they have to buy another flight for the same day, you end up paying for Michael O'Leary's horse. The combination of the two of them is that while one of them will be reducing in price, presumably all the seats not sold, the other one rising in price, somewhere they'll meet in the middle, and you can play one type of airline off against another. Then, Melanie, it gets complicated. One of the things that airlines, astute airlines like Ryanair do, and remember the human beings aren't making these decisions, the decisions tend to be programmed into a computer and made by bots. They will actually put a fairly high price in early in the game because they know there are people who have a sports occasion, a concert, a wedding, a christening, something like that they need to get to in April of next year, and they're going to buy that flight no matter what. So sometimes the early flight is put in at a slightly higher level. The bot makes the decision, how many seats are we selling at the high level? It reduces the price. The bot makes the decision after a little bit more. Is the sale following the general pattern that our millions of other customers or flights are filling? And then it reduces the flight a little bit more. Sometimes then it pushes it up. And it goes in cycles of €90, €70, €50, €30. Generally, you start low and finish high, but there are some sort of exceptions. And when, for instance, Munster announced they're playing a match in France, you'll see immediately all the price systems around those flights fly up. Anyone who tried to get to the European final to watch Leinster in Marseille will have just seen everything go through the roof. All the flight prices go through the roof even before people had started booking and even before Leinster had qualified.
Okay, so then is there a particular day of the week that's cheaper to fly out on?
Absolutely, very simple. You get 3 different zones. You get your expensive zone, which anyone would predict is flying out on Friday, coming back on Sunday. You get a slightly less expensive zone, which is the margins of that, the Monday and the Thursday. Saturday afternoon, oddly enough, can be a very good price. You know, there's this sort of hole in the middle of the weekend, which surprises a few people. Midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, lowest prices in the market. The bots know that those seats are harder to sell, so they throw low prices at them until the aircraft start filling. And, it's the old joke about the wet Tuesday in February is the time to travel. When the decisions are made by the bots can vary, but Saturday night, midnight is a good time to have a look. It's a bit of a gamble because at a minute past midnight your flight might have gone up by €20 or down by €20. But if you're not decided and you think the price is a little bit high, have a look about 6 weeks out, Saturday midnight, and see if the price comes down.
And is there anything that parents can do to try and keep the cost of flights down if they have to fly during the school holidays?
Okay, if you're a parent, you're going around with a big sign around your neck saying, please shake me down for every euro I have. There isn't really. The pattern of mass schooling and the breaks all happening at the same time means that everybody is wise to the event and everybody's going to exploit the situation. It's a pretty raw, unforgiving market out there. The airlines are looking for the maximum price. The hotels are looking for the maximum price. The excursion people are looking for the maximum price. And all these people who run events like water parks and things like that are also looking for the maximum price. So once you've got a straightforward system where everybody gets their school holidays around the same time, you're pretty much doomed. Where Ireland can work to their advantage is sometimes we have a holiday that nobody else have. A good time to ski is the St. Patrick's Week holiday because no other European country gets as many days off around March the 17th. Another thing to watch is school holidays in other countries. Italy, obviously, is the longest school holidays of all of us. But places like the Netherlands and England have shorter school holidays. So you can cash in on a few, French campsites and Spanish resorts, particularly those family resorts with the kids' clubs. You can, if you jump a little bit earlier into a place that's dependent on Dutch or an English market, you will actually catch their low season prices when Irish people are on holidays, when the Irish schools are on holidays. The other thing to watch is the midterm. Different countries have different midterms. France famously schedules its midterms across 3 different regions. And if you really, really want to get ripped off, arrive in any of the ski resorts during the Parisian midterm break because the prices go through the roof. If you can get, you can watch if you can get the Irish midterm not to coincide with one of the major markets, you're in a good position. We're not regarded as a big market. We are a pretty important market, but we're not regarded as the biggest market. So sometimes we will pick up prices a little bit lower than the massive markets, and the biggest market of all is Germany, with Britain and France not far behind. So you can pick up little bits and pieces around Europe where we don't coincide with the big markets in terms of school closures. Realistically, if you've got children, you have that big rip me off sign around your neck.
And tell me then finally, Have you ever scored yourself an amazing bargain with flights? One to this day that you still talk about going, I cannot believe I got that flight for that price.
I've got a lot of very lucky upgrades, a lot of very lucky prices. But you've got to remember that when there's an airline that has a lot of empty seats or in deep trouble and or even early in the game just trying to get the market excited, they'll sometimes give you this amazing offer. There's a fantastic song on YouTube that you've got to check out if you haven't ever heard it, about the people flying home to Kerry Airport from England for 50p. What happens is then they try and charge you little bits of extra for your priority boarding and all the other things. But if you pack yourself, travel light, you can pick up a flight for a tenner. You still can get that flight for €10 to any part of Europe, depending on when you fly. And if you pick a time that doesn't suit everyone, you can and don't engage in all that looking for the extras that airlines try to sell you, you can still pick up an amazing bargain. Interesting trend, though, because Ryanair's results were only announced this week, is that the average fare is getting lower and lower. The average fare is down something like 6% to around €35. It was down in 2019 by 6%. It used to be over €40, 44. But the average spend on other ancillaries, is what Ryanair calls them, by passengers has gone up to now nearly €23. Those two figures are getting closer. It means that nearly €60 per passenger, and only 35 or €36 of that is going to be the average fare. I can see a situation where the ancillary revenue is going to be higher than the average fare. For people like me who never check in a bag, avoid the coffee, avoid the paying for priority boarding, all of that stuff, much more difficult now because your free bag allocation is much smaller than ever before, but it can still be done. Lower average fare means that there's always the opportunity of a bargain, Melanie.
There is indeed. Corry, thank you so much for sharing your flight secrets with us today.
Pleasure, Melanie.